Welcome to the Scrambling Armchair, Chiefs news, analysis, and opinion every day. And guys, you know that I like doing individual stories per video, but I couldn't really think of anything, and I couldn't really find anything worth a video on its own. So I have three different headlines here, starting with ranking NFL's 5 biggest challengers to Eagles prior to the 2025 NFL Draft, Commanders among top contenders. Now, the assumption of this article is that the Eagles are absolutely the team to beat, and there are only other teams that might play along. This is from CBS Sports by Cody Benjamin, and we get an also ran entrant for the Kansas City Chiefs, which says the following. Even though Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are perennial locks to make noise in January, their lofty 2024 win total proved misleading on the biggest stage, where they were thoroughly and historically embarrassed by the Eagles. Since that loss, in which Mahomes had precious little space to operate, the Chiefs retained Trey Smith, but also jettisoned their most accomplished interior blocker in Joe Thuney. Can Steve Spagnuolo's defense drive them again? Could a healthy Rashee Rice reinvigorate the offense? Sure, but this generation's dynasty suddenly feels a little more scrappy than special. Now, I will go ahead and say that you don't accidentally win 14 games. You don't accidentally find yourself in the Super Bowl, not in the NFL. That's not how it works. The Chiefs had to play all of the same teams that obviously not all of the same teams, but all of the number one finishing teams the previous season had played. Time ran out in the Super Bowl. That's all that happened in that game. The Chiefs' time ran out. They won 14 games during the regular season. They won games in the playoffs, not just a game. Games, got all the way to the Super Bowl, and then failed. How often do we see absolute all-timer failures in the Super Bowl? How often does it feel that way? Oftentimes it feels that way. It's the last game of the season. The NFL is a battle of attrition. And by the time you get to the final game, the 21st game of the season, 20th game of the season, there are precious few healthy bodies left. So yeah, the Chiefs fell on their face in the Super Bowl. But if you could win Super Bowls with luck, maybe the Eagles would have more than 2 Super Bowl titles in the entire history of their franchise, but they don't. And how lucky did the Eagles' first Super Bowl win feel? Now, we have to address something else here. This article penned by Cody Benjamin, there's a little bit of stank on it, right? I'm not just reading that into it. There's a little bit of stank on it. Something that feels almost as if there is a grudge against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is Cody Benjamin. And I'm not going to go out there and say that he looks like Pee Wee Herman. I won't say that. You won't hear that from me. But I cannot say that he doesn't look like Pee Wee Herman. So I'm just throwing that out there. Not that it makes any difference one way or another what another man looks like. I'm just saying Pee Wee Herman, if you're going to model your look after someone, it's not the first person I would choose. And I understand I am not a stalwart of the fashion industry, but a pink bow tie is an interesting choice. From his bio on CBS Sports, Cody has covered the NFL for CBS Sports since 2017. He was raised around the Philadelphia sports scene. That's all we need to know, but now resides in southeast of Minneapolis with his wife and 2 kids. Press X for doubt. Philadelphia sports scene, that is where this stank is coming from. Mr. Herman did not appreciate the last Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. Now, staying with the same source, CBS Sports, in an article titled Ranking the Greatest Quarterbacks of All Time, here's where Aaron Rodgers currently ranks on the list. As Aaron Rodgers ponders his next move, let's reflect on his career from CBS Sports by Brian Diardo. We have 2 entries on the list, one of which was surprising to me. I didn't think he would get this type of respect, and the other was a little bit, I would say, disrespected. Number 26, Lynn Dawson. Dawson was the Drew Brees of his era from an accuracy standpoint. He led his respective league in completion percentage 8 times. That included 6 consecutive times in the 1960s and a final time in 1975, his final season. At the age of 40, Dawson quarterbacked the Chiefs in Super Bowl I and was named MVP of Super Bowl IV. In the final game played before the AFL-NFL merger. I didn't think that Lynn Dawson would get this recognition from the article. We have seen so many passers of the football in the past few years, and I thought that the recency bias would perhaps win out on this list and Lynn Dawson would not get a nod. So, if I'm saying that one was overrated, one was perhaps overappreciated and one was underappreciated, and I said that, hey, Lynn Dawson is getting more respect than I thought he would get. Who do you think is the underappreciated quarterback? That's right, Patrick Mahomes, number 7. One of just 2 active players on this list, Mahomes is more than deserving of his top 10 position. The 29-year-old is already a 2-time league MVP, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, and has an astonishing 106-27 record as the Chiefs starting quarterback. That includes a 17-4 postseason mark. Mahomes' 5 Super Bowl starts is tied with John Elway for the second most in history. Now, I would place Mahomes higher than 7. I think I understand where the author is coming from having perused the other entries. Mahomes is not finished. Mahomes does not have the statistics that other quarterbacks have. Now, it's not strictly about statistics because number 2 on this list, number 1 obviously was Tom Brady. Number 2 was Joe Montana. Joe Montana had all of his records broken by Peyton Manning. Joe Montana, I don't think, holds any records, so you're going with rings for Joe Montana. Rings did not get Patrick Mahomes put above a few other quarterbacks on the list. So I think that the rankings in general, I can defend this guy's quarterback rankings. They are statistically driven, but ring-based, if that makes any sense. And I can understand it. I think that that's still a bit low for the most electrifying quarterback perhaps we have ever seen. And the final headline we have is a mock draft headline because it's an interesting one to me in that if this does happen, boy, would that be nice. NFL Mock Draft 2025, latest predictions after the second wave of free agency from the 33rd team by Marcus Mosher. 31, so the Chiefs are not trading up. 31, Kansas City Chiefs selection, Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive lineman, Texas. Now, not Texans, so you're going to want to course correct there, but Kelvin Banks was the starting left tackle for the Texas Longhorns during the last 3 seasons, but some believe he projects as a guard in the NFL. That's fine for the Chiefs as they search for more starting caliber offensive linemen. Banks could start as their left guard, replacing Joe Thuney, with the hope that he could eventually kick out to tackle. Banks is one of the top 25 players in this class and would be a good value for Kansas City at the end of the first round. Guys, I think Kelvin Banks is absolutely a starting tackle in the NFL. If they are sold on their 2 starting tackles, and I don't know how you would be sold on Jawan Taylor if you had Kelvin Banks in the building, then okay, fine. But Kelvin Banks, in my opinion, is absolutely a top 20 pick, is absolutely a starting offensive tackle in the NFL in year one. 6'5", 315 pounds. Those are both kind of prototypical. I don't care what the percentage says there. If you're looking at a guy who's 6'5", 315, that's an offensive tackle. 10 3/8 inch hands, 33.5 inch arms. This is the big sticking point for him, kind of, is the arm length. They thought he was going to be a sub 33-inch arm guy. He is a 33.5-inch arm guy, so that kind of validates what you see on tape. 5'1", 640, a 4.66 short shuttle, a 1.79 10-yard split, a 32-inch vertical, 104-inch broad jump, 3-cone drill of 7.81. I think this is a starting offensive tackle in the NFL. From PFF, we get the following. 21 years old. They have him listed at 6'4", 320. Banks is an NFL-caliber athlete at the tackle position whose movement skills and run-blocking abilities give him positional versatility. His lack of arm length could hinder him at offensive tackle, but he projects as an impact starter at either tackle or guard. They have him ranked as the 20th player overall, season grade of 86.2 in 2024, 75.3 in 2023, 71.0 in 2022. A player that got better his 3 seasons in college. Now, should the Kansas City Chiefs be afforded the opportunity? The reason I wanted to put this out there is I don't see that there is any way that Kelvin Banks is available at 31. The mock draft itself was not terribly unrealistic. So, with a couple of players going a couple of different places, with a couple of general managers making questionable moves, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, Do, Re, Mi, 1, 2, 3, all of a sudden, the Kansas City Chiefs have a starting tackle fall into their lap at 31 overall. And Armand Membu is sort of generally accepted from Mizzou as the number 1 offensive tackle in this class. I don't think Armand Membu put on tape what Kelvin Banks did. Armand Membu absolutely destroyed the NFL Combine. Armand Membu is a guy who, as a Mizzou fan for a while now, I was afraid he was going to come out, but he never did until this season. He also never particularly dominated for Missouri. So, he is a projection type of selection, a guy that you are taking because he has a high ceiling. The prevailing theory on Kelvin Banks, at least from the NFL media right now, seems to be that, well, we're afraid that the floor, this player is closer to his floor than his ceiling. The ceiling might be low. The floor is very high. I think that this is a 10-year starter in the NFL. This is a guy who comes in and starts for 10 seasons for a franchise. The Chiefs picking him up at 31 would allow so first off, the question with Trey Smith is a prevailing, well, what if? What if the Chiefs do decide to trade him? What if the Chiefs decide to move on because they know they have a host of offensive linemen that can play the guard position? It's the tackle position that's holding them up. In fact, it's the left tackle position that's holding them up because they probably have 3 starting right tackles on the team prior to free agency. After free agency, I do think they have a left tackle on the team. Taking Banks at 31, I agree with the article in that I don't know that you want to start him week 1, snap 1 at left tackle when you have Moore, who's ready to go, right? Getting his feet wet at offensive guard, okay, well, if you've got him and you pick him at 31, Now you've got Trey Smith, and he's burning a $23 million hole in your pocket. What's about trading him, having 2 second-round picks? You have 5 starters on your offensive line, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and a 4th-round pick. What kind of damage do you think Brett Veach could do with that draft haul? We saw what he did with the haul from Tyreek Hill. He built a dynasty. He's gone to 3 consecutive Super Bowls. That's on having an extra first and like a 4th, wasn't it? So giving Brett Veach 2 thirds, 2 seconds, a 4th might really get the Chiefs over the hump as far as getting their offense back to explosive, getting both of their lines rebuilt. It would be interesting for sure. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.